All right. Well, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do it. Coming live from my sofa here in my living room, it's Alex Gervasi. So, in case this is your first video that you're seeing, this is something that I do called Woman Up. And basically this year, I was just talking to Nicky, who I will introduce in a second. I wanted to use this year to talk to women who inspire me, especially women in the industry, because I feel like it's so important for women to listen to each other and be inspired by one another and hear the struggles that we have gone through and be uplifted through that. And I was talking to a mentor of mine and I had said that, and she gave me the idea. I was like, well, why don't you make that a video series? Which is great because then I don't just get all this awesome inspiration, but then other people have access to it too. So I want to talk to my good friend Nicky because you are a woman that inspires me.
Oh, shucks.
And you were one of the first people I met in LA, and you have always amazed me by all the things that you do. And I love because we could get together like once a year and it's like whatever, we pick up where we left off. And I think there's also there's an understanding there that we are busy, and especially you are busy. So I'm like, it's cool. And yeah, I think that I'm just very excited that you made time out of your very busy schedule to do this. And I think even though I've known you for a bit now, a few years now, I'm just excited to hear more about your story and how you have built your brand. So my first question for you, Nicky, is how about you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Ooh, what do I do? Well, my name is Nicky Garcia. I do a lot of things.
You do.
Yeah. So when she says that I'm working, it's like not like, I don't really like really saying like, oh girl, I'm busy. Cause then it's just like, doesn't sound good. It's like, I'd rather be productive than busy. But as of right now, I'm a digital marketing manager at REVOLT. I also manage an R&B duo, R&B duo, Jake and Poppa. But that's just what I'm doing now. I also have HerOwnLane. But I've done like so many other things in my career.
You have. So I know that did you get your start at Power 106?
Well, I got my start at Power 106's sister station. It was a 70s and 80s station. I was 19 years old. I didn't really know much about 70s and 80s music, but I knew I was trying to be strategic about it. And I knew that if I just started here, I can just like go over into Power and then kind of blossom from there.
You were thinking ahead.
I was thinking ahead,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happened too. I went from Moving 93.9. I was there for 2 years, right when it started. It like switched from a country station into a 70s and 80s station. It was up for 2 years and it just wasn't doing well. And so they just let everybody go. They're like, sorry guys, not working. Peace out. So we're all like, cool, now we don't have a job. But a lot of people went over to Power, and I was just like, I didn't know how or what to do to go into Power because I was very shy at the time too. And Mondo Fresco, who was at Power, was like, yo, I need a producer. And like we were just like friends at the time. And so I started to produce his night show. And then from there, just kind of like opportunities just started just popping up. Like, hey, like do this, try that. And people would hit me up. And I was just like, yeah, I want to do it all.
And then you, from that point, you started working with Big more because that was when Big was at Power, right?
Yeah, so Big Boy was at Power. And I was doing the night show with Mondo. And Fuzzy reached out because, girl, I did so much. So
Give it all. Oh, we have time.
Right. So then I also, while I was at Moving 93.9, I also picked up an on-air gig in Palm Springs. So I would drive to Palm Springs every weekend for my on-air shift. And
That's a drive.
it's a drive from LA to Palm Springs is a drive. And Fuzzy heard that I had that show. I had the show for about a year, and then I just got sick of driving. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. So then Fuzzy heard that I was on air, and he's like, hey, Liz Hernandez is going on vacation. We need people to cover her, like a few women to cover her. And I was like, what? Yeah, of course. Amazing. So that night I was practicing with Mondo. I kept doing like air checks with him. Like just to see, like he would pretend he was Big Boy. I would pretend, well, I mean, I was me, but then I was like emulating Liz Hernandez's greatness, you know? And they heard the air text. They're like, yeah, can you come in tomorrow? And I was like, yes, I can come in tomorrow. I was scheduled to do 2 days. And then after the second, it was like a few girls who did it. Then they called me back to do it again. And then like a couple months later, Liz, she like missed a flight or something. And they're like, can you come in tomorrow? It was like at night. I was like, yes. And then it just kind of kept happening. And then they just kept me around. And I just stayed for a week. And I stayed another week. And we just kind of built from there.
How long were you there? And how then did you start doing more of the social aspects of that too? Because you produced for Mondo, and then I know you started picking up some social things as well when it came to Big.
Yeah, so when it's just, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to think of like everything that I've done, and
it's a great problem to have.
But I did it because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I knew eventually I wanted to do music stuff. But I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer, I can't like rap, like I can't do that kind of stuff. So I figured radio would be a cool way to do it. So I was in radio, but then I'm like, now what? So then it's like I did some promotional stuff, did street team, did on-air stuff. And then eventually, as I was picking up more on-air stuff with Big Boy, I was kind of becoming a character and role. I didn't really like it, because I didn't want to be somebody I wasn't. So I didn't want to be portrayed. I was single at the time, and I was having fun, but I'm also a private person, so I wasn't down to like talk about it on air. I wasn't down to talk about my dates and stuff. Yeah. And I like kind of did for like a second, and I didn't like it. Yeah. I didn't like the attention, so then I reeled back, and that's kind of around the time Twitter was popping.
Wow. Okay.
And so we were like, oh no, I don't even know if Big Boy had a Twitter. I might have started his Twitter account. And I was like, Big, let me just like handle your Facebook and like your Twitter and stuff, because we weren't doing stuff on there. And like, I was like, let's put your interviews online. Let's put it on Facebook. Let's like, it's so new. Yeah. And so from there, he's like, all right. So then I just kind of slowly removed myself from on air and did social media. And I was also kind of like an assistant to his producer. And then I was teaching myself Twitter along the way. And then with Mondo, we would play around with Twitter and mirror what was on air to Twitter and like giveaways and stuff. And I just kind of like
a lane and you went like right in.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I was like, oh, okay, let me just try and do this. Yeah. Because I still obviously wanted to be around. Like, Big Boy's the legend. Yeah. Liz Hernandez, what? Yeah. I grew up listening to them, like going to school listening to them. Like I knew all about them. I remember I was in high school. I actually played hooky.
I love it.
And it was like some NBA All-Star thing in LA, and I really wanted to go, and my friend's uncle had tickets, and so we skipped school. I remember seeing Big Boy, DJ E-Man, and Fuzzy were hosting the basketball game. And I was like, what? That's Big Boy. Like, Big and Fuzz were both, like, still big. Fuzzy had his dreadlocks. E-Man, I remember going up to E-Man and asking him for a picture.
That's funny.
I still have the picture. I look like a little nerd. E-Man is just, like, it's so funny just seeing the difference. Like, our growth. Yeah. Girl, this has to be 11, 12 years ago. Probably 12 years ago, maybe. Oh my God. It was a long time ago. And I don't remember what I was talking about, but yeah, it's been
just like finding that lane with Big Boy. And I think though that's especially when, and I think this is still true today, although a lot of people know how to work Twitter and Facebook. Personally, I think when it comes to a business or a brand, that's something that millennials definitely have more of a grip on. And so for you to be like, like to just see that there was room for something more that would build onto an already huge brand that's Big Boy and add to that, that's so valuable and obviously worked out well for you.
It was amazing because it opened other doors, because people were like, hey, I need to do social, like I need a social media person, can I hire you? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what to charge you. And I was so hard for years because I didn't know what to charge people. And they didn't get that, like, I feel like now we all know that social media stuff takes a long time. Like creating your own strategy, like scheduling tweets or scheduling things out or figuring out what you're going to do with it, like takes a lot of time.
And there's people that still don't get it.
Yeah, that still don't get it.
They think that social media is the same thing as posting on their Facebook page. It's not.
It's totally not. And it's like the time to post, when to post, how to post. Like girl, it's a lot. And so with that, it was just, it was a tricky time because I felt like what I thought I deserved, they would be like, that's too high, like to post on Twitter. It's like, yeah, but it takes a long time. Yeah. And so then as I like got deeper and deeper in the game, I was like, that's my rate. Yeah. And if they wanted to work with me, then cool. If not, then like, I bet. Like, it's just, I would move on. And then it's funny because then we'd end up working together like some other time. Yeah. You know,
when they got it,
and they saw, when they saw the different like cool things. But it was God's timing for me, to be honest, because like people were still trying to figure out what Twitter was and social media was, and then opportunities just started opening themselves up to me, and it was so cool. Like I knew, but I didn't know what I was doing in a sense of like what lane I really wanted to like do, like pursue. But I was just like, well, I'm good at this. You know, and I was working with not necessarily directly in music industry, but like around it, like at a radio station, and there's obviously music around. I'm working with legends, and I never took any of that for granted.
And you soak it all in. I feel like something that I always tell when interns or whoever might come in and they ask for advice, I always say, I think something that's never left me when I was an intern and now is, and it sounds so corny, but I think it's so true, is to really just be a sponge and be observant and be attentive and take in everything that's going on around you and really learn from people who've been ahead of you. And I mean, I think that's so important.
Right. And also not to be afraid to work hard. Like not being afraid to work and put in the hours, and like the 10,000 hours things is real. Like in order for you to really master your craft, you need to put in 10,000 hours. And it's like, there's so many times I was doing different things. Like I was like, maybe I like promotions. Maybe I like the sales side. Maybe I like the on-air side. But I would put in so many hours and I'm like, never mind. Not really for me. And then I would kind of move on. So like I never really had a problem acknowledging that I didn't like something and then figuring out how I can end up being happy from that. And it was always like hard decisions to be like, because I've always kind of felt like I would be letting people down. Like for instance, like sales or promotions. Like I'm like, I don't really like this anymore. Like I did it and I think I did a really good job, but now I just want to try something else. And this isn't for me. I didn't want to be stuck in that, you know? So I would go into different roles and figure out what I liked and what made me happy. So thus far, social media has, and like just digital marketing, I've had the most fun with, and I haven't been like, all right, I'm done with this, you know?
How did your digital marketing, because I mean, I could just talk to you for hours about just like where your career's gone, but obviously you had Big Boy, you worked with Sway, like these are major, major names. And to do digital marketing, I wonder, how did that play into becoming a manager for a hip hop R&B duo?
I think when you're when you're a manager, period, and I feel like anyone who's watching who is in artist management, in artist management, you can attest to, you're not just a manager when you're managing like whoever. You're also PR, you're also handling social media, you're handling booking, you're handling their personal lives sometimes. So you need to kind of be hands-on with a lot of different things. And I think with social media in specific, there's so many things that I had to be good with time management. I had to be organized. I have to make sure that even the smallest things, I feel like, make a big difference. Like making tripled, quadrupled, checking like your spelling, and you know, making sure that you're not just posting whenever, you're really adding a strategy behind it. And I take that mentality and I put that into Jake and Poppa and everything that we do also.
How did you even meet Jake and Poppa?
So in radio, actually. No way. Yeah, so they were doing the BET Radio Room. This was, 2010, maybe 2011. And I was there with Mondo, and we were covering for Power 106. And I saw them, and I was like, what song do they sing? And I'm thinking about it. And then eventually they came to our table, and then Mondo interviewed them, and I was just a fan of their music, and we just kept in touch from there. So anytime that they would drop music or they had a show, I was there. I was like, this is so cool. I love you guys. Like, I was legit a fan. And
it's so cool. It makes it even better when you're legit a fan of the artist that you manage.
Exactly. And from there, eventually they needed management. And I just saw that as like a little gleam of opportunity. So then I text Poppa of the group. I text him and I was like, yo, let's have lunch. I was so trying to do things like right, like I want to have lunch. I want to talk about it. Like, get your ideas or get your thoughts about it. So I sat down with him. He's like, so why did you want to meet? Because like, we're not into each other like that. We're like really good friends. Yeah. And he's like, so like, what's up? Like, what do you want to talk about? And then that's kind of where I was like, well, I think that there's like opportunity here. You guys don't have management. And I was kind of nervous to call myself a manager when I didn't really know much about it. So it was just kind of like, I would just kind of hang around them more often. And I would go to the studio. They would teach me things like with music and even just the business side of things, like breaking things down into like how you publishing, different royalties, and just breaking everything down. And I spent so much time learning with them, just the music industry, music, the songs, like how a song's created, how you write. It's all of it is so like interesting to me. And from there, we just kind of grew into like a family. And so now our company, our label was called the Family Imperial, because we really operate as a family. Like, those guys are my brothers, and I would do anything for them,
I think like the main thing I always hear in you, and I think that's, and I already touched on this before, but you are someone who's not only a go-getter, but you observe, and like I said, you see opportunities places and you make sure you take them. What advice would you have for other women who might, maybe are looking for a career change, or especially younger women just looking to find what they're passionate about, or just get into the industry in general? What advice, and this is a very broad question, but what advice would you have for them?
I would think a few different things, like not to be afraid to just go for it. And I have like a few answers for that. So if you're not in it already, don't be afraid to just do it. Like, look for internships, ask a lot of questions, hang around people, like the people who you kind of look up to, and learn from them. Just be around them, kind of soak their energy in. And don't be afraid to just like to work hard, to ask questions. If you're already in it, in an industry, and you're not happy, I would say to change your life. And it's scary. I have been there too often where you get comfortable, and then you look up and you're like, wait, I'm not happy. Yeah. You may have a lot of money, and you're like, you would think maybe you should be happy, and you're not. You might be in just a place in your life where you should be happy, but you're not. And your gut's telling you, and you listen to your gut. Like, your gut is telling you to do something about it. But I promise you that your future you will thank you for making the first move and being brave to seek your happiness and just do it. Like, this is your life. This ain't nobody else's life. Ain't nobody's going to worry about you when you're going to sleep. Nobody's worrying about you when you're just when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're in a dark place. No one's like, people care for you, but you got to deal with it, so you got to change it.
There is so much truth into that.
Right?
I think especially as just women in general, and to be so attentive to that. And it can be a scary thing when you're just trying to figure out what makes you happy or what you're good at. But I mean, that is something I've heard so many times. Like, listen, at the end of the day, you're looking out for you.
Right. You have to. Yeah. Like, you can't depend on people. You can rely on people, but you can't depend on people. You can't put your career in somebody else's hands. You can't wait on somebody because they said, like, oh yeah, I'll give you a call, and you wait on that call. No, you follow up. You see where they're at. You be persistent. Yeah. But it's not easy. And it's like, it sounds like it's easy, like while I'm saying it, but it's not easy at all. It's a lot of prayer. It's a lot of patience. It's a lot of talking to myself and kind of talking to like maybe my family or a couple friends. Like a side note is, it's good not to kind of let everything out. If you're feeling something, you don't have to like hit up your girlfriend or hit up your homies and tell them you're feeling something right away. Because I think about, it's easy to, what's the saying? It's easy to let the cat out the bag, but it's harder to put the cat back in the bag. So you're stressing over something, and then you got to go back around and be like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. And they ask questions, and it's just like, it's this big thing. And it's like, you ain't got to deal with that. Yeah. Pray about it, write down your thoughts, like talk to your friends. But I would say to keep it small circle of friends, you know, be very selective with who your friends are, people that you keep around you, because you pick up that energy, and that may hinder you in being successful and, you know, attracting love and light and what you really want in life.
As a woman, especially in the industry, and someone who is doing more, like you said, you did more talent side of things before, but now you started doing more behind the scenes work. Mm-hmm. You're at Revolt now. We didn't even touch on that. I mean, good Lord, which we will get back to. With whether it's Revolt or just in the industry in general, not specifically anyone, but as a woman, what type of hurdles have you felt like you've had to overcome, or have you experienced where I think, and the reason why I asked this question is, I think when I got into this game, I was naive to a lot of things, and you just have to experience things as it comes. Mm-hmm. I remember I would be like, oh, that's, you know, you'd hear about things. You're like, oh, that's not for everybody. Like, that doesn't happen to all of us. And then you go through and you're like, oh shit, you know, like, oh wait, they weren't lying. Yeah. Like, what, for you in your personal journey, what have you kind of had to be woken up to?
It's, with me specifically, I would say being a woman and also being Latina, I've experienced two separate but also at the same time, like a bigger boulder of things that would happen. As a woman in radio, I didn't really experience that much grief or that much sexism or racism in radio. Which is just my story. It may not be anybody else's. No, I'm asking for your story. Right. So when I got into the music industry, that's when I really saw a lot of stuff. Wow. And it's so annoying. I can't tell you, girl, how many times this has happened. I'll be standing in a record studio, a venue, wherever. And I'll be standing next to Jake and Poppa or our whole crew. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be the only woman there. And when people come over to say hi, they'll shake everybody's hand and they'll skip over me. And I'm like, oh, cool. What? I'm just chopped liver over here. Yeah. Like,
am I invisible?
Right. Like you really went from you, skipped over to you. And I'm like,
did you think I'm a girlfriend?
That's what it was. So once I really, like, I told Jake and Poppa, like, do you guys notice that? And they're like, no, what? Notice what? And of course,
God bless.
Yeah. And you just, you know, this is guys. Yeah. So, and I brought it to their attention, and they started noticing it too. And I asked some guys, like, why did you skip over me? And they think like, oh, you're one of their girlfriends, right? Oh, nah, boo-boo. I've experienced that where they just assume I'm like a girlfriend. There was this tour that they went on. It was a pretty big tour as a supporting act. And the gentleman whose tour we were on, which all of you guys know him, but I won't say his name. We were on tour for a good few weeks, and I would see him every night. And what's up? Hey, how are you? Very small talk. The last show, he came up to me backstage. He's like, yo, whose girlfriend are you? I see you on this tour every day. And at that point, I kind of laughed. Yeah. And I just looked at him. And then Pop stepped in from Jake and Poppa and was like, nah, bro, that's our manager. He was like, oh. whoa. And I was like, yeah, like I worked with your manager to make this happen. Like this is crazy. So often I'm underestimated, where men will just think I'm just one of the girls, just part of the squad, or I'm not really capable of doing what I do or what I can do or whatever. And I've seen that so often. And there are times where I'm in meetings with executives and they won't ask for my opinion, or they won't acknowledge me, or if I say something, they kind of just like disregard it. But then I'll bring up a good idea, or I'll like show numbers, the things that I've achieved, and then they're like, oh. Or it takes somebody else to co-sign me. It takes another man to co-sign me. Yeah. And that's so annoying. But now in the position where I'm at Revolt, it's so relieving, because the people who I work with, the men that I work with, are so empowering. In just different meetings with different executives, they kind of lead over to me, and I don't have to discuss or talk about certain things in these meetings, but they definitely empower me and give me the reins to just huge operations, like big things, and they trust me with it, and I feel humbled by that, but also like I deserve that. Yeah. Because this is what I've done in my career thus far, and I'm still a young woman. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of that. Yeah. That I deserve it. Yeah. You know.
So often, and not all the time, because there, like you said, you're now in a position at Revolt where your opinion is valued, and there's weight to it, because so often I think as women, especially young women, for you being a woman of color, where that is something that can be so dismissed. And it's like, yo, wait, especially I think a place like Revolt, where they're catering to your crowd. Like you're catering to millennials. Like you better listen to one, and to try to though make your voice heard. Like I'm sure, especially when you were more in the music industry, to have to be like, do I really gotta get my like male artist to speak up and draw attention that I'm here? It's like, how do you can't stop it from happening, but how do you almost make your presence known? Like, how do you make sure that there's weight behind what you do and say, and how you're perceived?
It's kind of something where you kind of let your work speak for itself. Mm-hmm. I've been very fortunate in my career, where the only job I've had to apply for was the one at Real 92, not Real 92.3. Wow. No, Moving 92.3. Moving 93.9. Wow. Mixing up all my numbers.
There's so many numbers.
Moving 93.9 is the only job I've had to apply for. And even that, I was so persistent. They said no like so many times. But from there, my work has spoken volumes, and I've gotten different opportunities. So from there, I feel like, you ever hear the saying also, you work hard enough where you don't have to introduce yourself? Mm-hmm. It's kind of a situation like that, where if you don't know, then it's fine. Like I just got to work harder. Yeah. So I'm at a point where I don't really trip on it anymore. I kind of laugh at it. Mm-hmm. Recently, Jake and Poppa were performing at a venue, and so one of the guys, I saw him like beforehand. It was just like a homie. He was like, "You going like that?" Like that meant I had like sweatpants on or something. I had like a hat. I had like regular sneakers, and I was like, "What do you mean like this?" And he was like, "You're a woman. Like, don't you have to dress? Like, don't you have to wear a dress to that?" I was like, "Bro, what? I have to wear a dress?" My artists are performing. They reached out to us. Like, they paid us a deposit. We're getting the money. Like, what are you talking about? They're gonna let me in. Yeah. He's like, I'm here. And he was like, oh, I thought you had to like dress up. Like, no, why would I? Do you dress up? You wear a dress, you wear heels? No.
It's like you're gonna walk into that venue and every guy in there's gonna be wearing a baseball cap.
Come on, exactly. And I remember thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna go like this. I'm not gonna wear a dress. I'm not gonna wear heels, like to prove that I'm somebody. Like I don't need to do that. Mm-hmm. I try to make my work speak for itself. And if you feel like I need to dress in heels and I need to dress put a little dress on for this, I work too hard to do that. So yeah.
I love that so much. Yeah. So much. Well, I want to ask you about Her Own Lane because I think it's such a cool concept. Where did you tell us about it, but then also tell us where that idea even came from?
Ooh, this is a funny story. So I was driving and what was I? I was listening to a podcast. That's what I was doing. I was listening to a podcast and a girl was on this podcast that I personally knew. And she was on this thing lying her face off. And about something that was like fake positive, and it was just like I was just so annoyed by it because I knew who this girl was. Like this girl's my peer. Yeah. And I was so frustrated and I was like, are you kidding me? Like you are not even a woman, not just a woman in this industry. You are a woman and a Latina. And this is how you're making us look. And then I stopped to think like who do like people like me, women like me, how many other women have a platform that look like me and that can show me the way or how to be successful or how to carry myself? How many women look like me? And then I started thinking and I'm like, well, 2, 1, 3, maybe. And I'm like, there's not really women who look like me and who are steering their audience or their platform in the right direction. I was so frustrated and I was so just like upset and like I was getting really emotional about this. This is just whack. And I was like, man, like I don't know how I came up with the name Her Own Lane, but I thought about it. I was so frustrated that night. I went home and I was like, I got to do something about this. I have to create something to show women and be that example of a good woman who's setting the right example. I'm not saying that the woman who is on this podcast is bad or she just, I just wanted to go a different direction with it. Yeah. And so from that night, like I just created Her Own Lane and just wrote that down. I had no issues. You know, sometimes you create something, you're like, what am I going to call this? I did not have that issue. Her Own Lane was the name. This is what I was going to do with it. I started the Instagram page that night. I didn't have like a huge plan for it, but I just knew I wanted to, even if it was this small, just post it, create an Instagram page for it and have these just like, even if they were small like graphics that just have positive messages, that's what I want for it. And then from there it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and I got a better response and a better response. Women are following it, they're reposting it, they're like, yes girl, like I agree with that, tagging their other girls, and it was something that kind of grew, and I wanted it to empower women, to show them that they don't have to go a certain way. They don't have to, as cliche as this sounds, to kind of sleep around to gain value or to figure out their place in a certain career. And you think that people don't do that anymore, but yeah, I have an interesting
Patriarchy's real.
Yeah, I mean, things happen, and I don't want, like, I want women to know you can make it happen. You can do, like, hella cliche, you can do whatever the hell you want to do in life, you know? And if I have a platform, even if it's like a small little baby platform, I want to help inspire, help you grow, show you what I did wrong, and maybe show you how to do it right. Or if I'm where if you are where I used to be, and I want to show you how you can kind of get out of that, like I want to be like your big sister, and to show you, like, you know, your big sister is gonna guide you and show you how to do right, and that's what I wanted to do.
I feel like a negative question, but there's a reason for it. And so it's always weird to ask, but has there been a point in your career where you wanted to just like throw in the towel? Was there a time where you failed? Because I feel like so often we hear about the successes, but I really firmly believe that talking about the failures are just as important, because that's realistic. That's life. Like, and I think though that was what's more valuable is those times where we can kind of pick ourselves back up and keep pushing on.
Yeah, there was a distinct time. I was like, why am I doing this? And I remember being so broke and crying. Like, I don't even know. I didn't want to ask like for help from like my family. And I just remember being so broke, and on social media I was popping though. I was yes, I was doing really cool things with really cool brands and really cool people. But the reality behind that was nuts. I remember just like waking up like, why am I doing this? Why am I going to work right now? Not just, I don't, at the time, I didn't feel like I was getting paid what I deserved. I was too afraid to ask for a raise. And I remember just thinking like, maybe just get a regular job. And no disrespect to anybody who has like a job, you know, but I'm just like,
but that's not where your passion is in music. And so it would just be like a teacher whose passion's kid being like, I don't know, maybe I want to work in radio, when that's not like what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like maybe I should just get a regular job. And I remember like calling my mom and asking her like, what do you think? And my mom's like being a mom, so she's like, be stable. Yeah. Like give it up. Yeah. Right. Be a doctor. You've always wanted to be a doctor. It's not too late. Right. Yes. And I was like, Mom, no, I'm not. I don't want to. And I remember there was one time I was in San Diego for a gig, and I was so broke. I remember crying. The only thing I could afford was McDonald's. I hate McDonald's. But if y'all want to pay me, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love it. Right. I remember being so hungry, but also being in that drive-thru, crying, like ordering my food, my voice shaky, like crying. And but I knew that I had to just keep doing it. And I knew that God wouldn't have put this fire in me to just fail and stay there and then live in it. And I didn't want to do that. So I mustered the strength to figure out how I was going to ask for a raise. I put together everything I needed to put together as far as like what I've done, how I've helped the business at the time. I did a lot of research, like how other women did it. I asked around, and I finally had the courage to do it. And they're like, yeah, it's time. I was like, it was that easy, man. I was stressing out. And then from there, just more opportunities, honestly, would just fall in my lap. And I learned that work brings more work always. You just got to put your head down and just keep working. But yeah, girl, yes, I wanted to fail. Yes. Because I thought you think like money is that important, but really it's not.
And now you're at Revolt and probably got like Diddy on speed dial. I don't even know.
Hey.
Get off my couch. I'm kidding.
Sorry.
I love it though. I'm seriously so happy for you. When I saw, it was so funny, like when I was we're talking about Chuck Dizzle and DJ Head, when they were like, oh yeah, you know Nikki? Yeah, she's at Revolt. I was like, what? Like, I literally was like, wait, since when? Is this new? And I was just like, what a cool gig. Because I feel like, especially when you love music and you're passionate about music, that's what they're about. And so that is like amazing. I'm so thrilled for you. I'm happy for you. Tell viewers where they can find your social website. Give us all the deets.
Okay, so if you want to find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, just search Nicky Jeezy, NICKY GEEZY, or you go to my site, NickyGarcia.com, NICKY Garcia.com, and everything else is there.
Thank you so much for sitting on my sofa today and coming to my house.
Oh, you have such a cute house. I love all of it.
Thanks so much. I can't take credit for any of it. I had an interior designer. I'm not like, this is not all me. But seriously, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wait. Before the mic goes off, thank you. Yo, if you just stumbling upon this on YouTube, Google this woman. She's done so many amazing things. She thinks I'm amazing. Doesn't amazing track amazing? Yes. Google her, follow her. She's amazing. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for this series, girl. You are amazing.
Thank you. No, I'm bright red. I'm gonna go cry now. It's fine.